Great. And you know, Oprah used to really like me. She was here many times. She loved my key lime pie. We have key lime pie, and she loved a lot of things about Mar-a-Lago.
Okay, guys, the time has come. I stopped playing League of Legends for this, so you know it's important. Just kidding, it's actually important. Dr. Phil is talking with Donald Trump, who is at this point really more than a presidential candidate. He's a lightning rod and a personification of resistance to the radical left-wing regime, which is now at this point revealed as openly authoritarian. Let's get straight
It's a
into the video.
psychological interview that you're doing, too. You're sort of being my psychiatrist.
You've been called every name in the book. Why do you subject yourself to this? What do you say
Really, when you're doing battle with the forces of darkness, telling the truth is self-justifying.
to yourself when the crowds aren't cheering? What is the hardest, darkest moment? There's an addiction to revenge. Nobody would fault you. You say, it ends here. It ends with me.
Our country's in tremendous danger of World War III, and I don't think I've ever said this on air before.
One-on-one with President Trump for an unfiltered, no-holds-barred interview. And I promise you, no topic was off limits.
Both of these guys are hardworking, basically billionaires. If Dr. Phil isn't a billionaire yet, he will be.
You look well.
I feel good.
Do
I
you?
feel good. No pressure.
Yeah.
It's nice to lead a life of no pressure whatsoever. Corruption surrounded by corrupt judges and corrupt politicians. Other than that, there's no pressure.
By the way, the left is already completely losing their minds on X that this conversation is even happening. Let me just show you briefly some of what's going on here. Dr. Phil is trending. And when you go to latest, it's just a bunch of no-name leftists just with no views, no likes, losing their mind, utterly freaked out. I mean, look at this. 6 views, 5 views, 8 views, whatever. Point is, their minds are disintegrating, that Dr. Phil is sitting down, that Trump is being legitimized and humanized in a way that they can't come back from. Because every single time somebody sees a person who the radical left has said is a non-human, who doesn't deserve rights or good person status, the only defense for that claim that they have is that they're not a part of our club. And so whenever somebody goes over that divide, bridges that divide and says, actually, we're going to treat him like a human, it delegitimizes the entire apparatus of the left-wing thinking system, because it says, no, we're not going to play the game of just demonizing people based on identity classes. We're going to say which ideas are better and worse, therefore using logic and reason as well as an individual identity, and all of that is intolerable to the radical left.
That they're stepping back from this. And
Very good news.
I called for the other day, and I don't know if you saw it, President Biden to stop all of this now. And of course, a lot of people said, oh, he can't stop it. It's a state case. Well, okay, that's an explanation for stupid people, but for people
He came out and said it. True.
that understand how this works behind the scenes and all,
Yeah, the radical left is a hive mind. They operate based on slandering people and depersoning them. It really is a divide between those who can think and those who can't think. It's very obvious.
need to stop pursuing you. Since you started your campaign in 2015 to run for office, there have been so many attempts to get you off the board even before you started your campaign. Then once you were in office, 2 impeachment opportunities, they
I mean,
changed.
the fact that he's an alpha male billionaire is really enough to explain a lot of the hate that he gets from deformed freaks and losers who are enraged just by his embodiment of reality. But then when you add on the resentment of Marxism, which is the resentment of communism, and the collective rage and resentment of every single deformed radical leftist, they become obsessed. As a matter of fact, radical leftists spend way more time thinking about Trump than Trump supporters do.
Change the rules to try to make it
Probably by an order of magnitude, at least 10 times.
high crimes and misdemeanors if there were business conflicts, and in this case,
Never ends.
it seems to be never ending.
It's a never-ending thing. There's a term that I know you've heard many times. It's called Trump derangement syndrome, and
Right.
nobody's ever seen anything like it.
Oh, this enrages them so much, bro.
One way, we drive them totally crazy because we're doing the right thing.
Yeah, exactly. Embodying reality as an alpha male billionaire who says the truth just infuriates the broken, alcoholic, single, childless women who buy cat food every single week.
You wonder, why would somebody want to have open borders where people are coming in from jails,
Because parameters and objective boundaries enrage them.
prisons, where they're coming in from mental institutions?
Right. They, yeah. Even the categorization of sane versus insane is enraging to them because it speaks to objective classes of existence. Meaning that reality is not opinion-based. It isn't subjective. It has objective right and wrong aspects to it. The reason why that's intolerable to the left is because Marxism says the only thing that defines better and worse is party allegiance. And postmodernism, which leftism has adopted, says there's no better and worse ways of interpreting reality.
As you know better than anyone else, they're coming in, they're releasing the people all over the world, not just South America, from mental institutions and jails and prisons. And who would allow this?
They want to destroy anything that reminds them that they're wrong, in the same way a feminist will spike the nose on her own face, keep herself single, miserable, and childless into her 40s and 50s just to say that it's men's fault.
Common sense, not a conservative thing. If they would devote that same skill and talent to making America great again, it would really be a wonderful thing. All my life, I didn't have any problem, and all of a sudden, within a matter of months, I end up with 4 cases. Now, of course, it's from the White House and the Department of Justice. I was the president, and I'm leading the current Democrat by a lot. And I have a gag order from a local judge that was appointed by the Democrat Party.
The fact that that's unfair, and we can acknowledge that that's unfair, and Dr. Phil is here acknowledging it's unfair, enrages the left. We're not supposed to extend the standards of humanity to those who the radical left deems bad people. A lot of liberals know how deranged the left has become, but they're silent because they're afraid. They're petrified that their status will be revoked, that their good person or acceptable person status will be revoked if they speak out against the radical left. So in many ways, we are living through a totalitarian moment in history.
I can't talk about it. It's so unfair. And then he gives a jury charge. Nobody's ever heard of a charge like this. He gave instructions to the jury. And by the way, the jury happened to be in a location that was almost no Republicans. You understand that?
Yeah, that's exactly why I'm saying it. Don't be naive, people. Understand that there's a power play going on
The
here.
left isn't interested in the paradigm of reason. They only care about demonization and identity groups. They're authoritarian.
Controlled by the White House and the DOJ. 100%.
I mean, let's let the people decide these, right?
That's right.
You know, the people can't be allowed to decide elections according to the left, because that would be acknowledging the sovereignty of the individual rather than the sole membership through group identity. The individual not only doesn't exist, but can't make up their own mind, because depending on their skin color, their sexual orientation, they may not be worthy of an opinion.
They've weaponized to a level. They are trying to affect the election by demeaning, hurting in any form. And by the way, I think after the election, the hatred's great enough that they'll go, but with much less enthusiasm. This is about November 5th, which I think is going to be the most important day in the history of our country.
We're a country of laws, right? I mean, and that's what's made us so orderly. That's what's allowed us to progress forward. And
the left doesn't like progress or order because those things discriminate between disorder and the erosion of objective frameworks.
there's something that are called Hornbook laws. These things have just been around so long, and these were violated in your case, one right after the other. For example, you don't let someone that has been charged in the same case as someone else, and they made a plea deal and said, okay, I'm guilty of doing this, because they were intimidated into doing it. The lawyer in your case, 65 years of imprisonment down to 3 years and 2 years, giving them testimony against you. That's not supposed to come in, but it did.
History will look at it between the war between those who hate America, who hate truth and objectivism and coherence, and those who fundamentally resent humanity.
What they've done to people that work for me is incredible. Incredible. The threats.
Right, they are vindictive. They're honestly satanic. The hate reaches satanic levels of psychopathology, and it's deeply disturbing when you realize that it's the same party that pretends to be inclusive and compassionate. It's the inversion of reality that is classic to the resentment they have for reality itself.
The taking of a gentleman who's been with me for years and telling me he's going to jail for 15 years unless they say, and he went back to jail a second time. I guess they didn't want him to testify. I don't know what happened exactly, but the threats that they made to this man, they've destroyed his life. These are fascists. You know, these are really bad people, Phil. But who's going to do it?
The radical left is openly authoritarian. I can't say it enough. The world sees them as evil. The question is just, can we stop them? Can we restore sanity? Can we force them to live in objective parameters? And of course, there could be maybe a lot of deportations to help save America, because we are living with evil humans.
You're going to jail for 15 years or You're going to go for 30 days or 40 days, or you're going to go for no time, but you have to say bad things about Trump.
Yeah.
I get prosecuted on a person that I have no idea who she is. I have no idea who she is. I have to pay $91 million. And that judge was just as bad, just as corrupt. I have to pay $91 million to a woman. I have no idea who she is. She wrote a book and she made a statement in the book. And
The left doesn't care about reality. They are not living in the same paradigm as us because objectivism discriminates between right and wrong, better and worse, coherent and incoherent. And philosophically, they actually are at odds with those types of preconditions. Postmodernism says there are no such things as better and worse, right and wrong. Those things exist to discriminate. And then Marxism comes along and says not only do they exist to discriminate, but they are defined by power disparities between people used to oppress, and then the oppression mechanism results in victims and victimizers, and if you're a victim, you're a good person. That's their entire playbook.
you know that case. That
I do.
case is a disaster. And then but I have no idea who she is. These people are corrupt and in some cases incompetent. But
I think actually in most cases they are evil as well. Trump is way more personable than I've ever seen him in any interview, and I've seen him on the Full Send podcast. He wasn't even this personable with those guys.
Letter long that you just don't do. The judge tells you, okay, you can testify, but I'm going to allow them to ask you about this person that you now owe $91 million.
If they had televised that court hearing, there probably would already be civil war.
What does any of that have to do with the matters at hand?
Dealing with truly, truly evil people who don't look at us as their equals. That's full stop the case.
This black letter law, you can't let in unrelated things that have more prejudicial impact than probative nature.
Right, but acknowledging those objective truths, those facts, engages in an entire, you could think of it as a game. That engages in a game with rules that they don't play. That game is called logic, rationality, even exercising your brain in coherent ways like acknowledging this thing is not allowed in this case is intolerable to them. Because it requires you to engage in reason and rationality and acknowledge Trump as an individual who is deserving of rights and dignity and respect. But the left can't engage in any of that because it undermines that process of deriving virtue from victimization that I described earlier.
That just doesn't happen, but it happened 1, 2, 3 things right in a row.
The history books will show the depravity and the authoritarianism present in the left in 2024 and its growing nature from 2020. We saw it. These people are psychopaths. They're disconnected from reality.
and I'll tell you what, I have a lot of lawyers that are friends and this and that.
The weaponization of the law against embodiments of masculine impressiveness and performance, and therefore objective reality, such as Donald Trump or even Tate, will go down in history as watershed moments. These men are paving the future for me. They're undergoing these ridiculous, heinous attacks so that the world can see this is who the left has become. You can oppose them. And that's what I'm going to do, goddammit.
At anything they can do, nothing to do with this case. All of these outside things.
The reason for that is because once he's labeled a bad person, he doesn't have rights according to the left. He's not deserving of consideration, of morality. But the left doesn't actually believe in morality. Any person that is not a part of their club isn't deserving of any human decency. This is going back centuries, guys. We saw this with the Bolsheviks. We saw this with the communist revolutions. Any person that wasn't a part of the group got thrown in a ditch.
And it was really an unfair trial. By the way, Biden was totally exonerated. Now, I'm not sure I want that kind of an exoneration. They basically said he's incompetent to stand trial, but he can be president. Think of that. He's not.
Right. They're not interested in the objective standards of reality. Guys, we have people that are leading the nation that don't care about truth. They don't care. Reality and reason and rationality are their enemy. They laugh at us as we try to hold them accountable, saying, why aren't you making sense? They only feel shame when we call them out as frauds, when we totally reject them fearlessly. That's when they lose.
He's not sharp enough, got no memory, got no.
And of course, they're enraged, as you saw on Twitter, as I showed you, by us again. Through this video, we all get to see the left as frauds. Guys, share this video with at least 3 people that you know, including people who are on the left if you can. Because even if they're just driven into a fit and think of nothing of Trump for the next 12 hours, at least they'll know we see him as human.
He's incompetent. Basically, they're saying he can't stand trial due to incompetence, but he can run for president. What?
Today, Biden pooped his pants on stage. What a time I'm alive in, bro! Oh my gosh, what a crisis! What a moment! Thank you, God, for putting me here during this time. I hope I'm doing the right thing right now. All I know to do is just speak the truth, but this is wild, bro. This is nuts. Biden pooped himself on stage today.
What's going on?
Yeah.
What are we missing here?
Yeah, it makes everybody uncomfortable.
The
about-
radical left hates humanity, and they hate truth. They have unfathomable resentment for reality.
You're not allowed to testify because you're in jeopardy if you.
And that's, of course, the reason why they openly deny free speech and censor people who disagree with them. Because if you disagree with the radical left, you are not deserving of an opinion. This is what we know from the Twitter files. Of course, Google censors any conservative. They're going to censor this video because they're openly evil. But I'm speaking the truth. I am therefore serving good. So subscribe to the channel and share the video, guys.
You're
with the
guilty
jury.
until proven innocent.
That's
basically
exactly
what
the
happened.
truth.
I can tell you that's the truth with me.
Okay, so this might be somewhat abstract, but I think that concept is derivative of a Marxist insistence that you should aspire to be a victim and that the state of being a victim must always be paramount. It must always be a protected conclusion because it's the only way we can derive and harvest virtue, good person status, even authority and power. There's no other just means or path to being a good person other than being a victim, and so we should assume victimhood, which therefore assumes that the person who's being prosecuted is guilty, rather than assuming innocent until proven guilty. A healthy society, of course, would assume innocent until proven guilty, but the Marxist society would assume guilty until proven more guilty so that we can decide how much of a good person we are later.
Great. And you know, Oprah used to really like me. She was here many times. She loved my key lime pie. We have key lime pie, and she loved a lot of things about Mar-a-Lago.